Hey everyone, welcome back to the garden. Today we are going to be planting up some spring bulb containers. It's October here, and that means it is the perfect time to plant spring flowering bulbs here in my garden. I've actually gotten a lot of questions about lasagna planting of your bulbs, so that's what we're going to kind of do today, along with some information about forcing your bulbs to get them to bloom indoors in the winter time. So the first thing I am going to do is I am going to get some bulbs that are suitable for forcing. And if you're not going to force them indoors, you can just get any bulbs that need a cold period. Should be fine for lasagna planting. For this video specifically, I have picked some tulips. These are apple blossom tulip mix. All these came from Longfield Gardens. It's not a sponsored video or anything. I'm just telling you where I ordered from. Also ordered some white hyacinths as well as some white crocus and some just regular generic looking muscari. Now, to begin the process of lasagna planting these containers are just 3-gallon pots. If you follow me on Instagram at Freshcutky, go ahead and go follow me. Love to have you. If you follow me there, you saw that I found recently some hydrangea bushes for $10 each. What a bargain. So I bought a bunch of those. Ended up buying 5 of those bushes because that was a great deal for the plants. I should also mention that this video is not sponsored by Proven Winners. I'm not associated with them. I don't get free plants to put all over the place. I ain't got that kind of money. So anyway, I am going to be reusing these containers for my lasagna bulb planting in this video. Hopefully when these come into full bloom, what I'm going to end up doing is placing these pots down inside a decorative pot to make things look more, pretty instead of just these ugly pots. But we are doing this just to save cost. So the first thing I'm going to do to get these pots ready, ideally I would throw down a layer of gravel or, just loose rocks in the bottom of this pot to make sure the drainage holes do not get clogged up. I actually don't have any gravel or anything laying around, so I'm just going to just fill this up with potting soil. Ideally, something in there to help with the drainage. In the past, I've even used old soda bottles kind of crunched up in the bottom of my pots to help with the drainage. But I am just going to go in here and add potting soil halfway up the container. Once I have done that, I am going to be arranging my bulbs in layers according to their planting depth and their bloom. So, for example, these hyacinths that I purchased are late bloomers and they have a planting depth of about 6 inches. I am going to place the hyacinths in the container first. I'm going to put the pointy side up and I'm just going to put a few hyacinth bulbs in this container. After I've done that, I'm going to add more potting soil and cover those up nice and good. And then I am going to add my next layer of bulbs. The next bulbs that I have in this container are the mid-season bulbs, which are my apple blossom tulip mix. This is just a lovely mix of pink and white tulips, single tulips, nothing fancy. And I am going to arrange my tulip bulbs again, pointy side up. Usually tulip bulbs require a depth of about 4 inches. After I've done so, I am going to add even more potting soil, and the last layer of flower bulbs that I'm going to add to this container are my crocus. The crocus are early blooming, one of the first things to bloom, and according to the package, they only need to be planted to about 2 to 3 inches below the soil's level, so those are going to be my top layer. So we have the early bloomers on top, the middle bloomers in the middle, and the late blooming plants at the bottom. A lot of time this also correlates with the size of the bulb, so just pay attention to your bulb size and your packaging when you're kind of determining when to plant each layer. So after I've covered my crocus bulbs on top there with soil, I am just going to water this container exceptionally well. I want to make sure that all that soil in there is well saturated. I'm going to go ahead and also plant up some more containers just for me. Really, this is the main focus. This is kind of how I'm going about planting a lasagna bulb container. Now, you have a couple of options when you are planting these containers. If you live somewhere like I do that gets plenty of cold temperatures and cold weather for the bulbs to get enough cold to bloom, certain bulbs, for example, need cold temperatures or they will not bloom. Tulips are an example of this. Hyacinths are also an example of this. They need a certain amount of weeks of cold temperatures or the flower will not bloom. This length of time will vary depending upon the tulip bulb. You can usually Google search that, or a lot of the actual bulb packets will say it on the packet. I think in general, most of them require about 12 weeks of cool temperatures to get that bloom in the container. If you live somewhere like I do that has cold weather throughout the winter, this won't be a problem, especially if you're planting in your yard, in a lasagna bed in your yard in the ground. That won't be a problem. But if you live somewhere a little warmer, you might have to explore different options for keeping your bulbs nice and cold. For example, I am going to be using these pots for indoor forcing. So what I am going to do, I have an old, nasty, stinky refrigerator outside in my garage. This thing is like from the 1960s, but it still works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of my containers and I am going to put those containers in the refrigerator. And after however many weeks needed has passed, I am going to remove those and bring them into the warmth of my house in a nice bright windowsill, and those bulbs will begin to grow. If you do live in a colder region, you can also store these containers outside in a space such as an unheated garage or a shed, anywhere that you are going to protect the containers from freezing solid. You definitely do not want these to freeze solid. Some people even actually can sink these pots into the ground and let the ground help regulate the temperatures better. Again, this is something that requires trial and error and just depends on where you live, because you want to find that right balance of cold, but not cold to the point that your bulbs are going to become damaged. Regardless of how you get these bulbs to chill, in the spring, if you've planted them outdoors, they will begin to grow, and you are able to really maximize your planting space with your bulbs. As all of the bulbs begin to grow, they will bloom in a succession. So of course, our early blooming flowers, our crocus in this case, will bloom first and have a lovely backdrop of some green foliage from the tulips or from the hyacinths. After the crocus have ceased blooming, we'll probably see the tulips next, with the hyacinths finishing out the pot. So the whole time, even though we've used this small little tiny space, we've got a lovely display of flowers coming in and out of bloom in the same pot. In the future, I really want to make a more in-depth video about seeing the spring blooms indoors using this method. There are actually a lot of ways that we can force blooms and have just really nice flowers throughout the winter, something to get us through the winter when, you know, the weather is cold and there's no flowers outside. So that is something I will be doing as these begin to grow and bloom and start to open up. I hope that this video was helpful. I'm not quite sure if it was. I tried my best to explain it. If you have any questions, feel free to go down in the comments below and ask them. I do try to answer the comments at least once a week. Sometimes it takes a little longer if my work schedule is really busy, but I do try to get down there and answer those. If you have any experiences with lasagna bulb planting, I would love to hear all about it, because at the end of the day, I'm still learning too. And I'm just trying to have just a really beautiful garden. And I always learn so much from you guys, especially, you know, people who have done this a lot more than I have. So I always appreciate any helpful tips or hints or anything like that. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. We would love to have you. We are making new content about gardening and all kinds of stuff. Who knows what I'm going to post next. I hope that you are having such an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye, guys.